What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for March 13th, 2023. I finally get to say it. 3.18 is on the live servers, but sort of. Squadron 42 reports have more info in them than the Persistent Universe ones do, and, well, we have a new gameplay feature that was released. Engineering. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike. The support has been insane over there. You guys have been coming over from the YouTube channels and saying what's up, and keep that going. I stream every day but Monday. Twitch.tv/SaltEMike. Stop over, give a follow, and check out some of the streams. But we have so much to get through this week, so let's start out with the patch notes. And we only had a few patches this week, starting out with Monday. The big thing here was a hard nerf of salvaging wrecks, from basically being everywhere to being nearly nowhere and really hard to find. They dealt with a number of performance issues as well as, some issues there in the bug fix section. Wednesday's patch was really just trying to get the network stabilized and fix a couple minor issues. And then Thursday's patch was basically them releasing the live patch notes and then never releasing live. They put out another post saying, hey, I don't want to crunch. We're deciding not to go live tonight, and we're going to go live tomorrow morning. I was pretty hyped about that because I didn't have to go to work on Friday, so I was ready for a full day of gaming. That didn't happen either. It released pretty late in the afternoon or evening, and I was never able to get in. It was incredibly frustrating, and most people weren't able to get in, but that leads to basically where we are now, where many members are still unable to get in and getting a ton of errors. I fortunately today, or I guess Sunday, was able to get in and play for about an hour. I completed 2 missions, failed a few others, and then I was just booted from the game back to the main menu and wasn't able to get in anymore. It was a lot of fun. What we were doing is, if you do run into these 60K errors, these might be resolved by the time the video comes out, but if you have friends that you play with and they happen to get lucky enough to get into a server, you can join on them. I basically accepted 500 people to my friends list while I was in the server, and people were trying to join my server off of me, and then other players in the stream were sharing their names, and people were joining off of them. It was kind of a community effort. It was really wholesome and awesome. It was a really cool experience, but yeah. They also put out a patch trailer, and I wasn't a fan of this. It was linked down below. It will be linked down below, I should say, and let me know how you thought about it. It just feels like they've gotten away from... Do you remember the 3.15 patch trailer, which was basically just in-game actions, and it felt real? It felt like it was representative of the experience that you were going to have. I didn't get that from this one, but we also had a roadmap and a monthly report this week, so let's start out with the roadmap. And for the roadmap, we don't have much of an update here. They start out by adding a single card to 3.19, the RSI Lynx, which is basically a fancy rover that is going to be in the constellation Phoenix. So if you have a Phoenix, you're going to get the Lynx. Additional derelict settlements are added to the progress tracker, and essentially the work is scheduled until the end of June. But I'm looking at derelicts and going, I think there are a lot of locations in the game, but the depth and excitement of the gameplay at them is not really there. I think the big takeaway here is that they mentioned the Rastar tool, a new way to place derelict settlements and other outposts, all these other things on planets. So that's really what we need to take away from this, not necessarily that they're adding more derelicts, because that doesn't really add anything to the game, in my opinion. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Obviously, the Rastar tool is something that will eventually lead to us placing our own outposts in the game at some point, and that was it for the roadmap update. So let's get to those Squadron 42 updates that could really impact Star Citizen one day. Now, in this segment, I love to cherry pick only the things from the Squadron 42 update that may impact Star Citizen, as some of the update is basically copy and paste from the PU one, and some is very Squadron focused that has nothing to do with the PU whatsoever. And we'll start out with AI vehicles. There's the classic AI improvements post that we've been seeing for 10 years, and when the PU is, AI still standing on chairs. So what's that doing for us? But the feature I think that's worth noting is that AI are being prepped for control surfaces, which is more of like a sim-like way for ships to fly in atmosphere. And if they're prepping AI for it, you have to guess that they're pretty far along in the design or the way it's going to work. Then for gameplay features, the big thing here is that the Gladius is a testbed for the new star map in the game. They mentioned what sounds pretty much like a seamless transition from the radar ball to a full screen mode for the star map, almost like it's decoupled from the Mobi-Glass altogether. And then they're working on a feature for us to control vehicles remotely. I don't think this is a player intended feature. I think this is for them to deal with AI. What are your thoughts? Leave a comment down below, but I think we're going to touch on it in the next section, which is vehicle features, where we get a whole new UI, new aiming reticles, hoping for more accurate aiming reticles. A new MFD tech is being completed and almost added to the game, and we don't have a great idea of what this will look like. I do have it up here, what the last MFD update that we have seen. It's kind of a little blurry, obviously, tough for you guys to see, but that's sort of the last thing that they showed us in terms of MFDs in the past, I believe. And they're also working on a feature for us to control vehicles in the way of recalling them to us. So I think the gameplay feature and the vehicle feature section are kind of working hand in hand here. So you can call a ship to your location. That will be massive. Somebody blows up your ship while you're at an outpost. Well, no big deal. Just call another one to come pick you up. And then we move on to video updates where the first thing was not an ISC, it was a Journey to 4.0 titled Design Brief Engineer. So what is an engineer going to be in Star Citizen?
You, as the engineer, are responsible for the resource management of your ship, the priorities of the items, and you are also responsible for countering any dangers that you might encounter throughout your flight.
All standard fare there, no big deal. And what dangers are going to be that he's talking about here?
There are 3 types of dangers that you will face as an engineer. One being something that you already know, which is overheating. The second being wear and tear. And the third one being malfunctions.
Okay, again, this is all very self-explanatory and what you would expect from an engineer role, but then they dive much deeper into malfunctions, and this is where things start to get, in my opinion, more complex and maybe a little bit too complex.
Different items in different situations cause different errors. And while I can't talk about all of them today, here are some currently in development. There's disconnect, where you either don't have a relay right now in the place, or you don't have the item right now at the item port. Then there is power drop, where the required amount of power doesn't reach the item. Then there is misfire, where wear and tear impacts the functionality of your item. Then there is cloggage, where resources are prevented from reaching your item. There's also power surge, where high energy reaches your item and will negatively affect the function of the item. And then there is leakage, which is similar to cloggage, where resources won't reach your item, but the cause is a little bit different. Then we have unresponsive, where you as the engineer try to communicate certain changes on the item and they will not reach the item. There is bugged, where we have the most experience with being creative, so be surprised for what comes your way. And then lastly, we have destroyed, where you just lost your item. Bug can also be caused by hacking or being tuned incorrectly.
So that was long. For power drop, I think he explains it in a weird way, where I think he's talking about, all right, a power plant can give up this much power and my components need that much power. And if the number that the components need is higher than the number that the power plant can give out, you'll start seeing it drop out. There appears to be a lot going on as well. that like things are happening all the time is the way the video makes it feel like. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case, but I don't know what you guys think. I will say this. I didn't answer the call today or yesterday on this subject exactly, and we got a lot of insights from the community on how they felt about it and what they thought was kind of going on here. Is it too complex? Are they doing too much? Is too much happening? Were a lot of the topics that we touched on. And then lastly, they discussed the different hats that you're going to wear as an engineer, and I found this to be the more interesting of anything that they shared.
The three basic engineering types are tuner, mechanic, and manager. So the tuner is the person that is responsible for your strategic decisions. The tuner is responsible for setting up the items in advance depending on what you want to achieve with your ship. The next hat you wear as an engineer is the mechanic. The mechanic plays into your fantasy of what you imagine when you think about sci-fi and the role as an engineer. It's like, in Star Trek terms, the person running around or crawling through Jeffries tubes to fix any item. Or in Star Wars terms, Chewbacca handing you the Hydro Spanner to fix up the Millennium Falcon. The manager uses the engineering screen to analyze your state of the ship, and they dispatch mechanics or the tuner where need arises, and can even assist with fixing certain malfunctions.
Okay, and the reason that I found it interesting was that in previous ISCs, the captain would give roles to the engineer in the ship. That may have gone away, that may not have, we don't know. But these seem very distinct roles. And I would have liked to have heard more about that and how that was going to be. I'm a little confused by the manager role, why anyone would want to do that. Is that going to be interesting? Basically feels like sitting in the back of the Scorpius Antares, pressing a couple buttons every once in a while. So I'm not really sure on how I feel about that one. Then we had a Star Citizen Live where there wasn't anything to cherry pick or talk about from the show. They had Benoit, and then they had Nathan Dearsley on the show. Two, in my opinion, absolute legends in the Star Citizen community, and maybe in the gaming community one day. We'll have to see. And just good interviews to hear about them as people. Again, I've expressed my opinions on me not enjoying that type of content, and so have you guys in the comments down below. But I don't think that this was an episode that I wouldn't have wanted to watch. To be honest, I did enjoy it. It's just not the type of content that I'm looking for from SCL. And with that, we'll move on to some other updates. As always, we start out with the sneak peek, and this one was interesting. I can't tell exactly what this component is, but I do see a little icon that is Crusader Industries. Maybe it's like an EMP mine, maybe it's a quantum drive. It's kind of shaped like a quantum drive. What's going on here? What do you guys think this is? Leave a comment down below and let me know what you guys think. Then there was the Antares sale, and yeah, I don't want to talk much about this ship because I think that this was a pretty bad sale and pretty bad thing to do. I'll put the price up on the screen for you guys if you are really interested in it. But from here, I want to move on to the Q&A where they start explaining why the Antares isn't really power creep at all and is totally a good idea, probably, right? No, the Mantis is still king in terms of its tackle role, but the Antares can fight better while still being able to do so. And then they also touched on the comparison to the Cutlass Blue and the Vanguard Sentinel, and this is my favorite part, where their argument for the Blue and the Sentinel is that they have interiors. For me, I think Avenger 1 did a really good video on the Antares and why it may not be the best, but why it might be okay or pretty good to use. And I'll leave a link down below to in the description for his video there. And lastly, they answered the elephant in the room, which is they felt it would be too much for just one pilot to handle, but I think that it also meant that the ship would be a little overpowered if there was just one pilot. But I think the direction that they went in is a little weird because, well, what's left to do when you separate all the roles is too little. Again, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. We've talked about the Antares already on this show, but I think they really need to hear the feedback on this one, because something like this I feel like should never happen again. It entered the game, I believe, on Wednesday, and it was given to influencers like myself. And I mean, guys, it didn't even work right. It damages itself. The dampener wasn't working. It was a mess. So I think we really need to kind of communicate our feedback there, because not only was the design of the ship poor, but the implementation of it in game didn't even work. It was a complete mess. The Vulture is on sale now as well. So we finally have a Vulture sale page. Not much to say here, really. It's a single-seater. It's $150 and has some pretty meh skins to it. I like the stock paint personally, and I certainly plan on using it a ton. But, dude, it's old news already, which is kind of crazy. Like, I'm ready to talk about 319, right? 318's already played out. I've played it for an hour, man. I'm done. Like, let's go. Right? And then lastly, for Subflare, it's pretty basic stuff here as well. There's a purple flashlight, an orange laser, and a green laser. Keep in mind, though, that 318, any subscriber flare or any hanger items that you have on your account, if you lose them in 318, you're not getting them back. Not for a while, until the next major wipe or until they deal with something in the back end, because character repair will not return all those items back to your account. So keep that in mind. There's some chitter chatter of people being upset about that. I think they've given us fair warning that PES is coming in pretty hot, if you haven't noticed, and fixing something like that is just not a priority right now. Getting the game functioning is a priority, and anyone complaining about this, I think, is being actually unreasonable, and that's coming from me, guys. That's crazy. So if you're going that far, boy, I think you're going too far. But hey, that's all I got. So, guys, that'll do it this week. I went a little far there. That'll do it this week. So leave a comment down below on anything we discussed today. Again, it is 1:56 in the morning. I'm exhausted. Leave a like on this video, because I'm putting in the hours this week. And I also want to say thank you so much again for stopping by my live streams. I basically had more viewers outside of a CitizenCon watch party on my stream today than I've ever had in my life. And it's very rewarding. I let the podcast listeners know that I'm going to be moving to full-time content creation. And it's going to be at the end of April, I think. And I'm really excited for it. I'm really nervous as well. We're financially okay, but it is where you're jumping into the deep end. But I'm really excited for what I'm going to be able to do for you guys on this channel. Even for this video, there should be a lot more I should be able to do. So keep an eye out for any videos coming out, and make sure you share them and leave some likes and do what you can there. And as always, if you do want to financially support the channel, here on YouTube, there is a join button. It's entirely up to you. No big deal. But I also live stream on Twitch, so feel free to stop by and join the community there. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next week as best I can, and I will see you guys in the next one.